Lurk and lurk.
Showcase is on. Q&A.
Did we lose Mike B?
I like how the document it says HIV/AIDS shared.
Why is Q&A disabled? No!
Oh well. Not like there's anybody watching us live.
Yeah. Well, my cousin was going to watch live, but...
Oh,
shit. I bet it's because I didn't click it till after I hit broadcast. God damn it, John. Geez, is it your first time to do this? For fuck's sake.
yes it is.
Alright, anyway. So you want to sync us up?
Do I? I don't know.
Yay!
Let's see.
Yay.
Get ready here. Get my tabs in my place. Alrighty. Where's my video? There's my video. Okay.
So for anyone watching, I apologize now that the Q&A is booked up. Well, nobody's watching, so fuck it.
We'll do it live.
It's okay. If you ever watch us in the future, the Q&A was disabled, so you couldn't have asked the question now. But there's no point in telling you that anyway, because you can't ask questions after the fact. What the fuck am I talking about? Anyway, let's sync up. At count of 3, I want everyone to say HIV. 1, 2, 3.
HIV. Welcome to the Irreverent Skeptics podcast. I'm your host, Jon Omby. Joining me today are Brandy Madison, who's lurking. Erno.
Hi-yo.
Dumbass. Mike Bowler.
Minecraft is the work of Satan.
And the Michael McElroy.
Hello.
So today we're going to talk about HIV/AIDS.
Oh, we finally get to talk about something that kills more black people than the U.S. police. Nice.
Fucking.
So be sure to send your hate mail to Adam at Herd Mentality. Or feedback at irreverentskeptics.com. So before we get started on this serious topic, I went last night. Brandy and I went to see Gone Girl last night. New movie, pretty good movie. I liked it. And before it started, there was an ad for Moses, which is a new movie with Christian Bale, directed by Ridley Scott.
The Gods and Kings thing, or whatever.
Yeah, that's the one. And so it occurred to me, like that movie with Russell Crowe, Noah, came out recently. Like both of those, just watching the trailers, look interesting to watch. And I thought, Lord of the Rings, 300. And if you like superhero movies, stuff like that, then I don't see why not go see something like Moses or Noah. Why not some good fantasy action movie, And I figure both of those directors probably have a really good chance of making that story actually interesting.
Although, from what I've heard about Noah, not so much.
Does it suck? Well, maybe I won't waste my time. I don't know. Here's a fun fact. I was looking on a list of fantasy movies, and the Left Behind series is in the list of fantasy movies. I should have looked for Passion of the Christ to see if it was listed as a fantasy.
It's an unusual book.
Anyway.
Oh, God damn it, I completely forgot our intro music.
Do you want to play it now?
Yes, I do.
All right.
Go ahead.
That was it? Is that it? It's the most awkward pause ever.
Well, it'll be something to dance to.
Yeah.
Dead air. Anyone? Dead air.
Arno, you got any more inappropriate jokes for us? That was pretty good.
That's my quota for the day. You only pay me for one, right? Two's extra.
You're getting paid for this? Well,
Are
wait,
you not hearing that?
I hear nothing.
Did you guys not add the YouTube plugin like I said to?
I've got it.
Then
Nobody
this is
told me
broken.
anything about a YouTube plugin.
And the Google Plus Hangouts are broken.
Oh, no. Hang on.
You can't unmute yourself and hear it. Also. So we'll be playing that in post because apparently.
Situation normal.
I have the YouTube app. It's not working, apparently. Yeah.
Huh.
Fuck. Okay. Anyways, continue. Fucking A.
Brandy's finding this rather hilarious in the background. Yeah, I have the app. It's not working for some reason. Whatever. Let's just do the fucking show. Now, how do I close this shit? For fuck's sake. Jesus Christ. Can we talk about HIV now? Like, talk about the HIV.
Being nicer. Yeah.
Brandy said, "Don't forget the chat and Q&A." Yeah, Q&A is broke on this one, so there'll be none of that. Anyway, okay. So, what is HIV and AIDS? HIV stands for human. For fuck's sake.
I love it.
Yeah.
Immunodeficiency?
Bongo.
We are off to a start. Jesus Christ. So HIV, or the human immunodeficiency virus, it's the virus which gives rise to acquired immunodeficiency syndrome, or AIDS. This whole show, by the way, I'm going to mispronounce the shit out of things. I'm just going to say that now. There's a lot of, like every show.
Yeah.
I believe it's pronounced immunodefiancy.
Defiance. I hate you.
It's going to help out, John. I know you appreciate it.
So once the human body acquires HIV, you've got it for life. There's no cure for HIV. However, with proper medical care, HIV can be managed as a chronic condition. Treatment for HIV is often called antiretroviral therapy, or ART. I've been confused in the past about what antiretroviral meant, so just
I don't get on myself.
Yeah. HIV is a lentivirus, which is a type of retrovirus. The retrovirus is...
So it wears a funny wig and goes to a disco?
It's kind of...
No, that was my joke! We're
going to have a system where someone can ping, joke incoming, ping.
Retrovirus.
So retroviruses use enzymes to reverse transcribe their RNA genomes into DNA, which is then integrated into the host genome and replicated along with it. Reverse transcribing DNA viruses can allow RNA to serve as a template in assembling and making DNA strands. HIV infects humans with the use of this enzyme. Without reverse transcriptase, the viral genome would not be able to incorporate into the host cell, resulting in failure to replicate. And we won't go too much deeper down that hole right now. Pun intended.
There was a pun?
Yeah. Anyway, moving on. We could probably do a year's worth of episodes on viruses and a bunch of science terms that I'd mispronounce and misrepresent, but I decided to skip any more explanation of that. But anyway, that's what I was wondering. I heard antiretroviral, and I was like, what the fuck does that mean? So this was a good time to look that up.
So we're deciding that we believe in the germ theory of disease?
I guess. I mean, at least for the show, right?
No, I don't believe it. I accept it on the basis of the accumulated evidence.
Ooh.
That's a fancy saying. The way of saying you believe it.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's a really it's really uppity way of saying yeah, I believe that.
Expose your face.
So the term HIV/AIDS represents the entire range of disease caused by the human immunodeficiency virus, from early infection to late-stage symptoms. During the initial infection, a person may suffer a short-lived flu-like illness. This is typically followed by a prolonged asymptomatic period. As the illness progresses, it interferes increasingly with the immune system, making the person more vulnerable to infection, including opportunistic infections and tumors. Primarily, HIV is transmitted via unprotected sex, contaminated blood transfusions, hypodermic needles, and from mother to child during pregnancy, delivery, or breastfeeding.
I just realized this stuff can cause you to grow tumors. Imagine if part of the treatment of the tumor was a suppression of the immune system. You'd just be totally fucked. So, like a lot of cancer treatments, when they bombard you with radiation or chemo, it just kills your immune system. So you could have that and HIV at the same time. That's bad news.
Yeah. So some bodily fluids such as saliva and tears do not transmit HIV. Campaigns for safe sex and needle exchange programs are key strategies for controlling the spread of the disease.
So you're saying that when I make the hooker cry, I'm still safe?
Yeah, absolutely.
Feel free to lick up her tears.
Tears of unfathomable sadness, you guys.
As I mentioned before, there is no cure for HIV/AIDS. However, with antiretroviral treatment, I can't write a script. Fuck.
That's okay.
As I mentioned before, there is no cure for HIV/AIDS. However, antiretroviral treatment can slow the course of the disease and may promote a near normal life expectancy. Treatments are expensive and have side effects. Without treatment, the average survival time after infection with HIV is estimated to be 9 to 11 years, depending on the HIV subtype.
11, huh? Inside job.
No, it's a job. It's going to be a long show, people. So 3 of the most common misconceptions about AIDS. 1, AIDS can spread through casual contact. 2, sexual intercourse with...
casual sex count as casual contact? Contact?
No.
Damn it! I brushed up against an AIDS person. Now I got it.
we were in the same airplane. Now I got AIDS. Oh.
Sorry, I
And
can't
Ebola.
come to dinner tonight, honey. I got
If that was true, it would be like just everybody would have it.
AIDS Ebola.
AIDS Ebola.
Ebola AIDS.
It's all
number-
by the U.S. government.
2, sexual intercourse with a virgin will cure AIDS. Oh, for fuck's sake.
Or a frog.
This is
Damn
commonly
it, I'm not
spread
cured
throughout.
yet. You weren't a virgin, were you?
Yeah, this is commonly spread throughout sexually repressed, female oppressed cultures. Like Mississippi. Number 3, HIV infects only homosexual men and drug users. Other misconceptions are that any act of anal intercourse between 2 uninfected gay men can lead to HIV infections. I don't know, like just friction your way into infection. I don't know what that means exactly.
Actually, I heard a dental hygienist say that when 2 sperm collide, that creates the AIDS.
Does he?
I'm serious.
When 2 sperm collide.
Right. Yes.
Does he think they're coming out of their ass or something?
Apparently.
It's the small anal sperm collider.
Yes.
The small hard-on collider.
Yeah.
I've actually heard some Republican politician guy talk about how they need to ban gay marriage because that's going to cure AIDS somehow. I guess that you can't get AIDS if you're in a monogamous heterosexual relationship because nobody ever gets a blood donation.
I've had someone tell me something similar to that, like,
Yeah,
look,
nobody's bisexual.
So I've
Right.
had someone tell me before, like, look, regardless of what they want you to believe, the truth is that the only way you're going to get AIDS is if you're gay. Like, is that a
Okay.
fact? Yeah. I'm like, all right.
Do you know what fact means?
Yeah. And here's my favorite misconception, that the open discussion of HIV and homosexuality in schools will lead to an increased rates of AIDS. So that's kind of like
Cost
don't have,
logic.
don't have sex education because all of a sudden the kids are going to want to have sex.
Choice. They think being a gay is a choice,
Yeah.
so I think if you taught about it, you're going to choose it because, it sounds so great. Hey, I'm going to face
The
discrimination.
thing that gets me about that is the open discussion part, because I think there's nothing, not one thing that should be banned from an open discussion of. We should discuss everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I actually read 2 more myths that it comes from a voodoo curse or it comes from a curse by God. So
Yes.
there's a few.
Oh yeah, the curse by God. That I've heard that a number of times.
AIDS by Reverend Fred Phelps. Yeah.
I'm trying to think of just a rough estimate of how many times I've heard a reference like that. That AIDS or some other, like AIDS, Ebola, some other plague is a curse by God because the world's sinful and yada yada, so on and so forth.
Funny how it tends to hit in the most religious, most Christian countries. Then, like, Christianity has spread like a virus throughout Africa, and hey, what do you know? Africa's hardest hit. Meanwhile, lots of secular nations like places in Western Europe tend to have lower rates of it.
Mhm.
Yeah, but I read somewhere that the first person infected was some kind of a DJ. I think it was called Dr. Congo. Uh,
What?
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 We'll get into that, aren't we?
it originated
Now,
from
didn't it come from a guy having sex with a monkey?
the Republic of Congo.
Don't step on my jokes!
Okay, so speaking of history, we are so off the fucking rails on this. So, Mike, why don't you tell us a little bit about the history of AIDS?
Sure, John. I'd be happy to. I'd aid you. AIDS was first clinically observed in 1981 in the U.S. The initial cases were a cluster of injecting drug users and homosexual men with no known cause of impaired immunity who showed symptoms of pneumocystis,
So is
cardiac
that something
pneumonia.
called clusterfuck?
I guess there was some of that going on, but that we'll talk about that later. A rare opportunistic infection that was known to occur in people with very compromised immune systems. So they had this rare disease that was popping up in what they thought would have been healthy men. Soon thereafter, an unexpected number of gay men developed a previously rare skin cancer called Kaposi's sarcoma. Many cases of the pneumonia and cancer emerged, which alerted the U.S. CDC, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, and a task force was formed to monitor the outbreak. And actually, in the early days, the CDC didn't really have an official name for the disease, and they often referred to it by the way of the diseases that were associated with it. For example, lymphadenopathy, which is a disease after which, do I have to read it that stilted?
By the way, fuck you for pronouncing that so well. I was like, I highlighted that so I would get that right, and I was like, fuck it, Mike can do this section, and you just ran right over it like it was nothing. I hate you.
Yeah. For example, lymphadenopathy, which was that the original discoverers of HIV had named the virus, and at one point the CDC coined the phrase the 4-H disease, since the syndrome seemed to affect Haitians, homosexuals, hemophiliacs, and heroin users. That's cute and clever for a terrible, debilitating illness.
Of course.
In the general press, the term GRID, which stood for gay-related immune deficiency, had been coined. And however, after they determined that the AIDS was not isolated to the gay community, they realized that the term was misleading, and the term AIDS was introduced at a meeting of somebody unnamed, CDC.
Yes.
At a meeting of the CDC in July 1982, and by September of that year, the CDC started referring to it as AIDS. I'd actually heard it called.
There's some sort of like group out there, like the religious groups who like to like relate it all to gays, who are pushing to bring back GRID.
GRIDs. Well, they've kind of given up on that, but they've come up with all sorts of other non-existent diseases to say, like gay bowel syndrome and things like that.
And it's not here in the notes, but for some time it was referred to as the gay cancer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I heard of that.
Anyway, that's how the spread got started in humans. But John, how did it get into people in the first place? Was some dude trying to get some of that sweet monkey dick?
It's funny because there are monkeys.
About that, we'll get to that in just a minute. So both HIV-1 and HIV-2 are believed to have originated in non-human primates in West Central Africa and were transferred to humans in the early 20th century.
It's a lot older than most people think it is.
Yeah, it really is. It's been traced back quite a long ways, and in fact, I don't talk about it much, and we won't talk about it much here, but it's been traced back to the original. I heard a story on Radiolab where they talked about the original two types of monkeys who had particular viruses where those viruses combined to form a virus that affected, I don't remember, was it baboons? Or chimpanzees, sorry.
The two viruses combined their powers.
Right, those two viruses combined to become the simian immunodeficiency virus, which infected chimpanzees, and then
Wonder Twin powers in the form of HIV.
That's right. So anyway, HIV-1 appears to have originated in southern Cameroon through the evolution of SIV, as I said a minute ago, or simian immunodeficiency virus that infects wild chimpanzees. The closest relative of HIV-2 is SIV, a virus of the Pseudomongoby, an old world monkey living in coastal West Africa. New World monkeys such as the owl monkey are resistant to HIV-1 infection, possibly because of a genomic fusion of two viral resistance genes. HIV-1 is thought to have jumped the species barrier on at least 3 separate occasions, giving rise to the 3 groups of the virus M, N, and O.
Yeah, in that radio episode that you mentioned, they talked about how there's evidence of all sorts of other similar diseases that have crossed the species barrier into another type of monkey, but that have yet to make the jump into humans. And they thought this would be something rare at first because there's just the luck of the genetic draw and all sorts of biological factors that kind of work against the combining of the viruses into something that functions, and yet they're seeing dozens of these things popping up. And any of them could potentially pass over into humans too.
Mm-hmm. Well, I plug Radiolab a lot on this show, and this is an episode I cannot recommend enough. It is one of my top 3 favorite Radiolab episodes. It's the Patient Zero. Yeah, Patient Zero episode. So fantastic. They start out with a story about Typhoid Mary, which was amazing, and then they move into the story about HIV, which was just fucking fantastic.
The origin of the high five.
Yeah, the high five. That's right.
And how that spread kind of virally.
So there's evidence that humans involved in God damn it.
Mushmouth?
Yes. There's evidence that humans involved in bushmeat harvest and consumption commonly acquire SIV. However, SIV is a weak virus which is typically suppressed by the human immune system within weeks of infection. It's thought that several transmissions of the virus from individual to individual in quick succession are necessary to allow time to mutate into HIV. Furthermore, due to its relatively low person-to-person transmission rate, SIV can only be spread throughout the population in the presence of one or more high-risk transmission channels, which are thought to have been absent in Africa before the 20th century. Genetic studies of the virus suggest that most recent common ancestor of HIV-1M group... Let me restart that sentence. Genetic studies of the virus suggest that the most recent common ancestor of the HIV-1M group dates back to circa 1910. Proponents of this dating link the HIV epidemic with the emergence of colonialism and growth of large colonial African cities, leading to social changes, including a higher degree of sexual promiscuity, the spread of prostitution, both human and monkey hookers. Huh?
Wait. There actually was some monkey hooker going on?
No, I'm just kidding. I have never once heard a story about actual monkey fucking going on. I won't say it has never happened, just I've never actually heard anyone in the scientific community say that was a thing.
If you want to get head, don't pick a chimp.
You want to talk about high-risk sex?
Well, it's not like one of the first things.
No, I've been to a nature park in India where the monkeys will surround your car and beg for food. What else will they do for food? There's a question there.
Well, you know the bonobos, on the other hand. The bonobos. Hey, you're my best friend. Let's fuck. Hey, I need something from you. Let's fuck. Let's resolve our conflict. Let's fuck.
Yikes. Okay, also, the accompanying high frequency of genital ulcer diseases such as syphilis in nascent colonial colonies. While transmission rates of HIV during vaginal intercourse are low under regular circumstances, they are increased many-fold if one of the partners suffers from a sexually transmitted infection causing genital ulcers. Ew. Early 1900s colonial cities were notable due to their high prevalence of prostitution and genital ulcers, to the degree that as of 1928, as many as 45% of female residents of eastern Kinshasa were thought to have been prostitutes. And as of 1933, around 15% of all residents of the same city had syphilis. An alternative view...
Wait, did you say 48% were prostitutes?
45%, yeah. That's crazy.
How the hell did that work out just economics-wise?
They became very wealthy.
Of female residents.
There's a lot of under-the-table payments made? I don't know.
Power in the country? I don't know. Let me just repeat for posterity's sake.
I mean, how is there that much demand for it? That 45% of your population. Was it a big tourist city?
Actually, there was an article in, I think, The Guardian about one of the early outbreaks in the Congo, where there was a big influx of foreigners, locals to work mines, and that there was a big a major boom, an economic boom, and it was drawing people from all over Africa and Europe into the Congo to exploit mineral resources, and and it was all men. So they think maybe up to 100,000 people had moved through Kinshasa, and over a few years. So it was a lot of influx of locals, foreigners, and they think that's one of the launching points for one of the HIV strains. And that's just a recent article I saw about a week ago.
Well, if it was a smaller community and there were a lot of people going through there, then I guess I can kind of see that.
Yeah, there seemed to be a lot of. I mean, it was mostly men being brought in to work the mines. Actually, a lot of them were apparently, a lot of them were into monkey eating monkeys. I guess it was the
bushmeat was a big thing. Yeah,
right. And so it was, and so they suspected a lot of. I mean, because most of these camps were mud huts, basically. There wasn't a lot of sanitary concerns for these people, so yeah, a lot of nasty stuff could go on.
So it's funny you mentioned the whole bushmeat thing. Apparently, that's a way for the Black Plague to spread.
Also, in our chat, Brandy said she was confusing bushmeat for slang for a prostitute.
No,
that's my Brandy. So an alternative view holds that unsafe medical practices in Africa after World War II, such as unsterile reuse of single-use syringes during mass vaccination, antibiotic and anti-malaria treatment campaigns, were the initial vector that allowed the virus to adapt to humans and spread.
It also sounds plausible, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why that has to be an alternative view rather than an accompanying view. Although I guess if they're trying to determine the single original infection, I guess either of those sound plausible.
That sounds more like a compounding factor than an alternative.
Yeah. Actually, I remember seeing how they were doing these vaccinations. In Africa to do these quickly. They actually had, it was like the needle was actually like a little fork where they would dip the fork in the vaccine, and then they would kind of lance the skin to administer the vaccine. Of course, there was no. I mean, one person they do it, next person so everybody in that line got
there were
whatever.
So many people to treat, they didn't have time to clean it all up, or they just didn't think about it.
Right. There was no. There was very little sanitation in that case. Sterile, whatever, keeping things sterile.
So dig this: the earliest well-documented case of HIV in a human dates back to 1959 in the Congo.
Wow.
The virus may have been present in the U.S. as early as 1966, but the vast majority of infections occurring outside sub-Saharan Africa, including the U.S., can be traced back to a single unknown individual who became infected with HIV in Haiti and then brought the infection to the United States sometime around 1969. The epidemic then rapidly spread among high-risk groups, initially sexually promiscuous men who have sex with men. By 1978, the prevalence of HIV-1 among gay male residents of New York and San Francisco was estimated at 5%, suggesting that several thousand individuals in the country had been infected.
I gotta wonder what exactly changed, because this was so unheard of. Was it just
didn't I hear something
became a more libertine culture and people were more accepting of, or more open about being gay, and there became a gay culture that it started spreading among gay men? Or I just don't understand why this popped up in the 80s. That's such a strange.
Curse from God.
Because
That's when America.
Well, the reason it
It lost
So
its
I
way.
remember hearing something about some sort of possible case, like in the early 1900s, like 1909 or something.
Yeah, I guess it's possible, but from what I've read, doing research, the earliest, like I said, the earliest well documented case was from '59. I think there are cases where they suspect could have been, and that one from '59, if I'm not mistaken, they have a DNA sample from that particular case that they were able to diagnose it. So anything further back, I imagine, is just looking at a case. Oh, these symptoms are such that it might be HIV. Whereas in this particular one, they had a DNA sample, I think.
I wonder if there's like a parallel here between the whole vaccination autism thing. How people who blame vaccines for autism tend to say that there's an increased prevalence of autism, when really it's just an increased diagnosis, like the diagnostic features of the disease have changed so that they diagnose more things as autism. I wonder if the reason we saw such a resurgence of this, maybe it was there all along, like from or in smaller numbers, but not so small that it wasn't there at all, and that just when they started realizing that this is a specific thing,
right?
They had a diagnostic test and then they started recognizing.
Yeah, I think that sounds totally plausible.
And the classification once because I mean the because mostly when you realize you have it, it's because these kind of rare diseases. I think we'll be talking about them here in a little bit, but once they realize this disease was caused by HIV, then that added to the list. So the list or the numbers changed because once we realize, hey, this is associated with this, now we can add this million people to the list type of thing.
Right.
Whereas before that, someone has one of these diseases and they're just like, oh, they have this disease and we're treating that disease, not realizing that their immune system has been compromised for a decade possibly. So how about a quick pop quiz? How's that sound? Who wants to be the lucky contestant?
Ah, crap! I didn't study.
Ah, then dumbass.
You're the contestant.
Okay, so which of these?
Neither did I.
I'm going to give you 4 options, and you tell me which of these is the most likely or highest percentage chance of infection from an infected source. Is it unprotected sexual contact, childbirth, blood transfusion, or needle sharing injected drug use?
Ooh. Well, my first impulse would be to say sexual contact. But
that is incorrect. That is actually, of all those, the lowest.
Yeah, really lowest.
Sexual contact, the lowest percentage chance. Childbirth, second, only to blood transfusion.
Really?
So infected blood to uninfected blood, highest 90% chance of infection. Childbirth, 25%. IV drug use, needle sharing IV drug use, 0.67%. And they have different particular, and this list I have has a breakdown of different types of.
All right, audience at home, you heard it here first.
The highest
person with AIDS, relatively safe.
Yeah, the highest percentage chance receptive anal intercourse from an infected person to an uninfected person from 0.04 to 3% chance.
I see. So you're saying this is the chance of transmission for a single instance of each of these. This isn't the how many cases of transmission is caused by this.
Correct. Yeah, this is which one is which one has the highest risk. So blood transfusion.
There still might be more cases that are caused by sexual contact. It's just that it's a lower risk for each individual case.
You're not backing your way out of getting this wrong, sir.
No, I was confused about the question. Don't you try and
fancy talk me, mister.
Causes the most cases. This isn't about causing the most cases. Okay.
I read somewhere that the childbirth is actually really safe if you do it in a hospital environment, a modern hospital environment.
Yeah,
I think it was in Rational Wiki or something.
And on that note, a mother who has HIV/AIDS giving birth, it is completely preventable. I read transmission of HIV is completely preventable with the right treatments. I don't remember now what the treatment is, but it is completely preventable to spreading that during childbirth.
Well, I knew when you asked a question and you mentioned like sexual contact in there, I knew right then it's like, okay, this is one of those ones where you put the one in there that sounds like it's the most plausible one, but that's really just to show you how wrong you are.
Why didn't they trick you, man?
Well, I think the reason why
has more vitamin C, an orange or what was it, green pepper? I don't know.
Broccoli.
I think the reason why is because generally it's associated with sex. When in any kind of pop culture or no, I guess not as much now, but certainly for a while that was the. I think that way, if someone talked about AIDS, then it was like, oh, gay sex. Whereas now it's just, oh, unprotected sex. Well, actually, that's the least likely of the ways to get it. Percentage-wise. Although I think, like McElroy was saying, numerically speaking, probably many more cases of that than otherwise. I don't have numbers for the type of transmission for those.
You're fired, John. You're fired.
I did as much research as I wanted to. I was going to say could, but that would be
question.
Thank you for the honesty.
Yeah. So, Mike, how about some symptoms of HIV?
Sure. Let's go with this. All right. So the symptoms of HIV will vary depending on the person that's infected as well as the stage of the disease that they're in. I guess there are several stages. There are 3 different stages. The first is the acute infection stage. Many, but not all, people who are in this stage get flu-like symptoms. They usually describe it as the worst.
I've had flu-like symptoms.
The symptoms can include fever, swollen glands, sore throat, rash, muscle and joint aches and pains, fatigue, and headache. This is called acute retroviral syndrome or primary HIV infection, and it's the
I've had all those things.
Response to the infection. Don't worry, it's just the flu. The second stage is called the clinical latency stage. After the acute stage of infection, the disease goes into a stage where the virus is living or developing in the person without producing any new symptoms, or only mild symptoms. And this stage is also sometimes called...
had periods of no symptoms.
You've had several years of no symptoms? Well, you might be in this stage then. The stage is also sometimes called the asymptomatic HIV infection or chronic HIV infection. And during the stage, the virus continues to reproduce at pretty low levels, but it's still active. And if you take antiretroviral therapy in this stage, you may live with clinical latency for several decades because the treatment helps keep the virus in check. For people who aren't on the therapy, though, the clinical latency stage lasts an average of about 10 years. And some people could go through it faster. And this is the stage I remember growing up in the 80s. This is what I would hear, is that people were expected to live maybe 10, 15 years after they got AIDS, and that was before they came up with the whole antiretroviral therapies. And then the last...
like Mr. Mercury, right? He didn't live long with AIDS.
Yes, good old Freddy. Rest in peace, Mr. Mercury. So the final stage, obviously, is AIDS. It's the stage where your immune system is badly damaged and you become vulnerable to infections and infection-related cancers, which are called opportunistic infections. When the number of your CD4 cells falls below 200 cells per cubic millimeter of blood, you are considered to have gone on to AIDS, the actual final stage. And somebody who has a healthy immune system, CD4 counts are between 500 and 1600 cells per cubic millimeter, so several times more. I guess you're also considered to have progressed to AIDS if you develop one or more opportunistic illnesses regardless of your CD4 count. And if you don't get treated, people who progress to AIDS typically survive about 3 years. So with no treatment at all, you might survive an average of 13 years total after getting the infection. Once you have a dangerous opportunistic illness, though, the life expectancy without treatment falls to about 1 year. But if you are taking antiretroviral therapies and you maintain a low viral load, then you may enjoy a near normal lifespan. And you might never actually progress to the final AIDS stage. You might just stay in the chronic HIV infection stage. But those things are fucking expensive.
Yeah. Insurance companies love paying for them, I'm sure.
Ooh, this is a pre-existing condition. No, I got it from somebody. Oh, we don't believe in the germ theory of disease. We believe you've always had it in you.
Act of God, you're fucked. So I'm going to list some of the illnesses associated with AIDS.
This is also known as the part where John tries to pronounce hard words and sound smart.
Good luck, Johnny.
We're rooting for you.
Yeah. All right, first, candidiasis, thrush, which is an oral yeast infection common in babies and immunosuppressed people. It's painful white coating of the tongue and throat. Sounds terrible.
Say it.
I'm looking. Fuck.
Coccidioidomycosis.
Yeah, fucking hell.
Coccidioidomycosis.
Moving on. Fucking shit.
Cryptococcosis. There you go.
Cryptosporidiosis.
Ooh.
Cytomegalovirus, which sounds pretty ominous. Herpes simplex. Herpes zoster, which is shingles. Histoplasmosis. Here's one I never heard of before. HIV dementia.
I don't remember I have AIDS.
Sometimes called HIV encephalopathy or AIDS dementia. This disease is caused by HIV invading the brain, most common when the CD4 cell count has gotten very low. Symptoms include memory loss, depressed mood, unsteadiness with walking, irritability, apathy, clumsiness, shaky hands, and personality changes. About 3/4 of that sounds like me when I first wake up in the morning.
AIDS!
You got the AIDS.
It gets better after coffee, though.
For antiretroviral
next.
therapy coffee.
That's right. ART coffee. HIV wasting syndrome. Isosporiasis. MAC, or Mycobacterium avium complex. PCP, pneumocystis pneumonia.
Those were the first ones they identified, yeah.
Mm-hmm. PML, progressive multifocal leukoencephalopathy. Oh my god, I can't believe I just got that.
Got it.
Holy shit. Now don't ask me what it means. Moving on. Salmonella. Don't eat raw chicken if you have HIV, I guess. Don't eat chicken. I don't know. Toxoplasmosis.
Hey, that's
Tuberculosis.
that's the one that cats can give you. The thing that makes you like cats.
Is it?
Yeah, toxoplasmosis.
Yeah, it's the one that makes the mice go to the cats, right?
It makes them lose their fear of cats so that they can
Right.
infect
Huh. Tuberculosis, cervical cancer, Kaposis sarcoma, and lymphomas. That's a
Fun fact about tuberculosis: approximately 1/3 of the people on the planet have it.
Nice.
really?
Mostly in like third world nations, but yeah, like China and India, there's high enough prevalence of it that 1 in 3 people on the planet have tuberculosis.
Criminy. Well, so there's that. Who's
I
reading
wonder
the
who's
next
going
segment?
to do the stats now.
Hey, Erno, why don't you read the next segment? Or Dumbass, why don't you read the next segment?
Why don't you give us some statistics on the proliferation of HIV and AIDS?
Mm-hmm.
Hold on, let me load this up.
The dumbass
Oh,
himself.
you're fired.
Sorry, my computer's going slow right now.
Oh yeah, blame the hardware. Like technology ever failed anybody ever.
Your
Fucking
computer's a little AIDSy. CIV, computer immunodeficiency virus.
I'm sorry, the thing just isn't changing on me.
All right.
Somebody else do it.
Do it, Arno.
Sure, why not?
Statistics.
Erno, why don't you give us some of those statistics about the proliferation of HIV and AIDS?
Why not? Didn't want to die alone anyway. Okay, so roughly 35 million cases in 2013. The following stats will be from 2012 because we don't have the latest stats, but men are roughly 17 million cases and women 16.8, so it's about half and half. Of these, children under 15-year-old are 3.2 million, and that's from 2013. Wow. Yeah, that's a lot of children too. So,
Jeez,
1.5
that's like one in every
million
100
dead.
kids. If 1 in every 100 people in the U.S. got it, that would be how many kids got it last year.
Yep. So, 1.5 million deaths in 2013, but it has a downward trend, probably because of better treatments available, and close to 12
And
million
those kids shouldn't
HIV
be so
positive
sexually
people.
active.
Yeah.
Right? They
Yeah,
should just
well,
be sticking to abstinence, like Jesus said.
Yeah, well, here's a not fun fact about that. In areas where the stupid idea that having sex with a virgin will cure you, yeah, there's an awful lot of child rape in those places because where else?
Oh, God.
Where a better place to find a virgin than here's an 8-year-old? So
But then
Yeah.
everybody else is fucking 8-year-olds to get rid of their AIDS, so it's not so much of a sure thing anymore.
So,
Hopefully,
Anything else in the countries where they tell people that
Catholic
condoms
churches are
will-
big in those countries.
Oh yeah, Catholic Church
Ah.
has taken a lot of flack, and deservedly so, about this stuff over the past several years because
Yeah.
of Benedict
saying
said
that-
something about how condoms increase the spread of AIDS.
Yeah.
So
But hopefully the priest didn't get to them before the people with AIDS.
But Mike, priests can't have sex. They're sworn to celibacy.
I
And as we know, they would never do anything harmful to a small child.
yeah.
Hey Arno, if I want to get an infection, where should I travel?
Sub-Saharan Africa. That's the place to go.
Osbros.com.
So in Sub-Saharan Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa has 68% of all cases and 66% of all deaths. So poor
Wow.
healthcare and high infection rate. That's pretty bad. Of all people, roughly 5% are infected. Only geographical location to reach over 1%. I think the second highest was 0.9 or something. Yeah. So South Africa is located in Sub-Saharan Africa, and it has the most cases in the world of a single country. So it's 5.9 million, which is more than the population of Finland. So everyone in Finland gets one, and
Everyone has AIDS.
there's some people in Sweden too. And yeah, it's for you Americans, it's more than Houston, Philadelphia, and Phoenix combined. So I think it's the
You
fourth,
get AIDS,
fifth,
and
and
you get AIDS, and you get AIDS. Everybody gets AIDS.
That's just over 10% of the population of South Africa. 52.98 million people. Jesus.
yep.
Wow.
In absolute number of infections, South and East Asia takes second place,
Yeah.
but prevalence in Eastern Europe and Central Asia is higher in percentage of population. I didn't put down the numbers, but yeah, they were pretty high. Safest place to have totally irresponsible crazy sex are East Asia, 0.1%, and Western and Central Europe,
Hang on,
0.2.
I'm going to go to orbits
The
here.
US was at 0.6, and I think North America around 0.4.
Huh.
So, if I get myself a preteen Thai hooker, I'm okay? Or is that Southeast Asia?
Yeah. It was relatively safe there. I don't know why. There
I'm not
wasn't a good
I have a pre-
explanation.
Send your hate mail and death threats to feedback at irreverentskeptics.com.
I wasn't asking for me. My priest needs a
Oh,
friend.
yeah, I know. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah. That was a good time to put that in there for the hate mail and death threats.
So this was the CDC list as the prevalence, the socioeconomic factors that factor in prevalence. Poverty, which limits testing, care, and availability of contraception. Yeah.
Prevalence and
What's so funny?
socioeconomic factors that factor in the prevalence.
Fuck me. Okay.
Later.
Stigma and homophobia discourages testing, prevention, and treatment because you don't want to be known as super gay, and gays were HIV positive, and AIDS people who had AIDS were beaten to death during the 80s.
Fun fact, AIDS is the only weakness of super gay.
Yeah. So previous prevalence of HIV and STDs in the area where you are is a great factor because people often choose partners from the same geographical area and from the same community. If you have STDs and HIV, it's going to spread more efficiently.
It's very easy to choose partners somewhere near you. Yeah, it's hard to have sex with someone across the world.
Yep. And higher incarceration rates among men. I don't know how this factors in, probably by having lower availability of males in your, basically in your community. So
prison sex.
You are more likely to, yeah. That might be something to consider too. Higher rate of undiagnosed STDs, of course. If you don't know you have something, you're probably not going to avoid it. Then there were language barriers, etc., which is like you just don't understand what information people are giving you. Like someone says, "Hey, I have HIV." Does not compute. Let's have sex.
You are HIV Aladdin.
Right.
I don't want to have sex with you. I didn't quite understand that. I'll have sex with you.
Sorry, I can't understand you. Let me have sex with you. It'll clear it right up.
Yeah. So.
Niet means niet.
So,
anyone else want to read the CDC quote?
Sure. Hang on. CDC care and prevention for people living with HIV. Okay, so CDC says, quote, while the impact of such factors can be difficult to quantify, one recent analysis documents the association of some critical socioeconomic characteristics with risk for HIV infection. The study found that poverty was a key factor associated with HIV infection among inner-city heterosexuals. Within the low-income urban areas included in the analysis, individuals living below the poverty line were twice as likely to be HIV infected as those who lived in the same community but lived above the poverty line, 2.3% prevalence versus 1.0% prevalence. And prevalence for both groups was far higher than the national average, 0.45%. Within these high poverty areas, HIV prevalence was high and comparable across racial ethnic groups. In addition to being more common in low-income households, HIV infection was also more common among those who were unemployed and had less than a high school education.
So this is what we talked about earlier. If you don't get the proper education, you're more likely to have STDs, including HIV/AIDS.
Yeah.
So kids, stay in school, or you'll get AIDS.
Yes, did you know AIDS is caused by not going to school?
So, Mike Bowler, your most recent episode of Skeptic's Guide to Conspiracy was about HIV denial, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
So the release dates on these won't line up exactly, but why don't you give us a little bit of info along that line for our listeners?
Yeah, according to Wikipedia, HIV/AIDS denialism is the belief, contradicted by conclusive medical and scientific evidence, that the human immunodeficiency virus, HIV, does not cause the acquired immune deficiency syndrome, AIDS. Denialists fall into two categories: those who claim that HIV doesn't exist at all, and those who claim that HIV is a harmless passenger virus which does not cause AIDS. Some people even claim that AIDS is caused by drugs used to treat HIV. Naturally, the uncontroversial scientific consensus is that HIV is the cause of AIDS, the cause for AIDS. After scientists had published the first paper linking LAV, here's a John here,
Lymphadenopathy.
Lymphadenopathy, whatever. Associated virus.
Phenomena.
Later to be known as HIV to AIDS in 1984 in Science. A guy called Caspar Schmidt published a paper in the Journal of Psychohistory claiming that AIDS was not a real disease but an example of epidemic hysteria. Ironically, Schmidt would die of AIDS in 1994.
That is
looks like that epidemic hysteria really hurt his immune system.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, here's a question. Do you know he died of AIDS about 10 years later? Did he... Oh, I don't know if that was the same publishing time. Either way, by the time he died, had he reversed his position on that, or do you know?
I couldn't find anything. He kind of disappeared from the denial world anyhow because...
when he got AIDS.
Yeah, without proof, I'm just going to go ahead and assume he went, fuck, I have to shut the hell up now.
Yeah, pretty much. I think that's what, but it was like the first salvo in the AIDS denial world.
But everyone knows that you don't die from AIDS. AIDS can't kill you. It's all the other stuff that comes along afterward that kills you.
Right. Yeah, because actually the real mover, it's okay. We'll talk about him. In 1987, Peter Duesenberg questioned the connection between HIV and AIDS in the journal Cancer Research, and in 1988, Science. Oh.
Yeah, the journal Science.
Yeah. In 1988, Science. Fucking phone.
In 1988, Duesberg published a paper called "HIV is not the cause of AIDS" in the magazine in the journal Science. Right. Science also published another paper by some different authors, which with the title "HIV causes AIDS." They were in the same issue. So
wait. You published both of these?
Yeah, Science published both of these in the same issue.
Okay. I thought he published both of them.
No.
Because of course we've got to give equal time to the controversy.
Yeah, HIV causes AIDS was published by a group of scientists, including one of the original researchers, Robert Gallo. He was the one that pretty much founded HIV research in the U.S.
Yeah. In the same year, a Perth, Australian-based group published a non-peer-reviewed article on how there was no compelling reason for preferring the viral hypothesis of AIDS to one based on the activity of oxidizing agents. Since Duesenberg was a member of the U.S. National Academy of Sciences, he did a so-called dick move and used his membership to publish a non-peer-reviewed article in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences.
Also known as PNAS.
As PNAS. Even after the editor...
So he pulled a dick move in PNAS.
Yes. Nice.
Gay?
Yeah.
It's only gay if the balls are touching.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, so he decided to publish it even after the editor told him that he was a dumb fuck.
He had to show this in the PNAS.
He didn't use those exact words, but I think Mike Bowler is the right person to read the eloquent quote from the editor.
Yeah, this is from the editor. If you wish to make these unsupported, vague, and prejudicial statements in print, so be it. But I cannot see how this would be convincing to any scientifically trained reader. This is from the badassly polite editor of PNAS.
Would it have been too much for him to just tack on the very end of that, dickhead?
That would have been appropriate. And this actually piqued my interest in peer review. So I actually tapped Stuart Robbins of the Exposing Pseudo-Astronomy podcast. He's a real scientist. He's gone through he's done the peer review, the publishing.
He's been a guest on our show before.
And he's been our guest.
It was an awkward episode, but nonetheless.
Yeah. But I was kind of curious, how can a scientist bypass peer review? And he goes, that's almost impossible. But when I looked into the PNAS,
you looked deeply into the penis?
Straight into it.
You didn't approach it from the side, or
Well, I looked at it.
Maybe
I hit it from all angles, man.
Mike, do you now have a firm grasp of the penis?
Almost. The right hand really works really well on that.
Did you get tired working the penis?
Sometimes. You get that.
I love the name of this group.
Genitals, everyone.
But apparently, yeah. But all seriously, the proceedings actually isn't a actual. I want to say it is a peer. It's not necessarily a peer-reviewed publication. It is actually where any scientist could put an article in it, and but there's some editorial control.
Is this one of those type of journals or publications where they also document papers that were put out at conferences and things like that weren't peer-reviewed but just published?
Yeah, it's just almost like hypothetical publications. I mean, or on hypotheses. These weren't exactly where they would actually go in and do a full peer review. So this guy Duesenberg, who felt pretty strong about this, actually I'm kind of amazed. Because my interest is, why would a scientist? Because see, at the time Duesenberg wrote his paper, the HIV viruses had been identified and discovered. Why would you go on into a publication contradicting it? And I mean, this is actually a mystery to me, because Duesenberg is a real scientist and he's done real good work in cancer.
This time he really cocked up and gave the penis the shaft.
Pretty much, yeah. But he whatever. I don't know if there was some kind of arrogance going on there or whatever. Because that's the only thing I could think. If you wanted to kill your career in science, you could. This is how you would do it. I mean, put a shitty article out. But I was kind of curious, and I hadn't gotten any more information from Stewart on how the proceedings works. And if you really can get around peer review, but this is really a weird. To me, was a weird.
I found some explanations on that. Since he was a member of the Academy of whatnots,
he was a
actually
penis.
Yeah, he was a member of PNAS. So
he's a PNAS member.
And they get like a shortcut where they don't have to go through the normal editorial process. They have I think they have a limited ability to write whatever they want into the PNAS.
I'm an adult.
I have to admit, I've lost track of what we're even talking about now.
We're talking about
We're talking about the penis.
Douchebag that cocked up the penis, gave them the shaft, and just balls it all up.
Okay. Maybe I should go on with the script, right?
Go for it.
Yeah. So.
Getting a little hard.
The Perth group managed to get a letter into the Journal of Nature Biotechnology in 1993 because the editor, Harvey Bailey, whatever, was a denialist as well. So, since the editor didn't believe in AIDS, they could get a letter, not an actual article in, but a letter nevertheless. The letter argued that the Western blot test for HIV was not standardized, non-reproducible, and of unknown specificity due to the claimed lack of a gold standard. I don't know what the hell that means, and I couldn't find the letter, so whatever. In 1994, a physician with a revoked license, Robert Wilner, started treating AIDS patients with an ineffective ozone therapy, and he died in 1995 of a heart attack. So that kind of ended as soon as it began. Yeah, this cat and mouse game continues without much actual scientific debate, and is carried on by people like the Perth Group, Continuum, Doctors for Disaster Preparedness, Alive and Well, and the South African government.
What? South African government?
Yeah.
Yep. So they very much, the very much beloved President Nelson Mandela didn't care much about HIV/AIDS during his presidency, and it was said somewhere that he actually regretted that since his successor Thabo Mbeki, I suppose that's how you pronounce it, went on a rampage. Early in his presidency, he created a presidential advisory panel regarding HIV/AIDS, which, despite its name, included a lot of HIV/AIDS deniers, and continued to support such people until he left office. So he pretty much was the president. Think about if Barack Obama went around saying, yeah, Ebola isn't real. Let's just all kiss dead African people and go with it.
If you listen,
So this was
you
not.
probably think he does.
Yep, this was not enough for him. So he decided that it would be a great idea to deny people antiretroviral treatment, because, of course, those were poisons. Poisons created to kill black people naturally, and substitute them with, listen to this, garlic, beetroot, and lemon juice.
It's
Let's
organic.
have a little pop. Let's have a little pop quiz here. Which one of these three do you think works against HIV/AIDS?
Garlic.
Maybe garlic? I don't know.
Yeah, garlic. 'Cause see, here's the deal. You eat enough garlic, no one's going to want to fuck you anyway because your breath is going to be so bad, right?
No.
So
Here's the thing.
garlic
So
is
the actual real cause of HIV and AIDS is vampires. And if you eat garlic, you'll keep the vampires away.
Well, we have just unraveled the mystery, folks.
All right, that's it. Let's back up. Goes over.
30 plus years of science. Go fuck yourself. Irreverent skeptics. We solved it.
So, origins of his HIV denial can only be speculated, but it seems that it has a racial and medical conspiracy component to it, right? Because if you consider real, actual scientific medicine a poison, I suppose that's considered a medical conspiracy, right? Yep.
Oh yeah.
To me.
Yeah. I love the conspiracies that do come out of this, though. I mean, what was the guy? Leonard Horowitz. He's a dentist who claims that HIV was created in a lab, either in Africa or Fort Detrick in the United States, to target homosexuals, blacks. I forget exactly. I think it was just there's this concept that you can program a virus to attack racial groups or certain I don't know. It's supposed to be genetic, whatever, that. I forget the whole conspiracy, but that's been taken on. There's this guy, William Milton Cooper, who claims he's one of these grand conspiracy guys. I mean, JFK was, the JFK AIDS. He's talked about, the Illuminati. He missed out on the big garter snake, but he was, but he was. It was all this. He kind of everything was all one big conspiracy. Illuminati conspiracy. And
oh yeah, of course.
Yeah. So he
nothing
tried
random ever happens.
Yeah.
It's all directed, because if random things happen, then life would be terrible.
Right. But he promoted the HIV/AIDS as a biological weapon. There's been a few other. Probably a lot of the anti-vaxxers kind of latch on to that too. I don't have actual who's promoted it, but I know Horowitz. I think Baylock, another anti-vaxxer, I think has also promoted it. So
unsurprisingly, there's a lot of overlap between anti-vax, the AIDS denialist, all this alternative crap.
I think once you believe in one medical conspiracy, conspiracy, it becomes super easy to like get invested into every single pharma conspiracy out there.
Because you distrust all of the published science, you distrust the government resources, and you only trust alternative news sources that you read online.
Yep.
So speaking of one of these alternative news sources, you mentioned, I think, or no, you mentioned one of the groups that carries on the whole AIDS denialism thing was this group called Continuum, which was an AIDS denialist group that put out a magazine by the same name from December of 1992 until February of 2001. So you might be wondering what happened in February of 2001 that made them cease publication. Well, both of the editors of the magazine died of AIDS-defining clinical conditions. They died of AIDS. Yeah, surprisingly enough, when you deny that you have AIDS,
I
it
would
doesn't
never
go
have
away.
guessed that.
Yeah. Shall we go
I'm
on
a
with
bleeding
the South
denialist.
Africa?
I think we're at the end.
No. We're going to get Mbeki to leave office now and
Yes, that's
talk
true.
about Jacob Zuma. He scrapped the unfortunate policy in 2009 and proclaimed, I think Mike McElroy has the right presidential voice for a black president, right?
All South Africans need to know their HIV status and be informed of the treatment options available to them.
Nice.
You are welcome.
Thank you.
President Jacob Zuma, everyone.
I should have done some of the fake sign language for that while you were talking.
So just a note, I will be editing this in
The
post to add
traditional African
transcript
flavor.
of James Zuma, where they shout, Zuma!
What?
What? What? Come on, what?
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 Say the same, buddy.
What?
What? Who all is reading which stories here? I'm claiming this one. Alright, I guess I'll. Gilroy. Alright. The transsexual prison lover is awesome.
I haven't actually looked at the Ig Nobels, so we might be able to skip that one.
Yeah.
Alright, I'll just strike it through. We'll leave it in the notes so people can look at it if they want, but I'll give it a strike through. And I'll do this one, I guess. No, so when you scribbled that out, I'll do the O.J. Simpson one. This is awesome.
I see Brandy now. She's right behind you with that knife.
All is good in the house.
Alright, so for our what, Mr. McElroy, give us our first what.
All right, I would be happy to. This is an ongoing situation in Florida. Let's see here. From the Raw story, Bible-pushing Christians open the door for satanic activity books in Florida schools. This is pretty fantastic.
I call that an epic fail.
So in Orange County, Florida, there was a decision made by the courts, or I guess there was a decision made by some Christian groups to disseminate some religious materials in public schools, and I guess a Florida judge ruled that if the Orange County School District allowed them to do this, then they'd have to allow atheists and other groups to do the same. So, let's see. The Satanic Temple responded to this by creating something called the Satanic Children's Big Book of Activities, which contains kid-friendly satanic lessons. There's an example, one of the pages of this activity book is a word jumble which says, "These bullies are mad and afraid of things they don't understand. Help Damien use inclusive language to defuse the situation."
What? Damien? Like from South Park?
Yeah, and from The Omen. So the spokesman for the Satanic Temple, the perfectly named Lucian Greaves, gotta change that name. explained
his
that
birth
Is that a
name.
character from Fable?
Or possibly Harry Potter.
Well,
Yes.
there's a character. Fable 2 had
Tom.
Lucian. I don't know what his. I guess that was his last name, Lord Lucian. Yeah.
So anyway, he explained that his organization, quote, would never seek to establish a precedent of disseminating our religious materials in public schools because we believe our constitutional values are better served by respecting a strong separation of church and state. However, he continued, if a public school board is going to allow religious pamphlets and full Bibles to be distributed to students, as is the case in Orange County, Florida, we think the responsible thing to do is to ensure that these students are given access to a variety of differing religious opinion, as opposed to standing idly by while one religious voice dominates the discourse and delivers propaganda to youth. So this is actually the same group which earlier in the year, I think we mentioned this on another one of our shows, in the state of Oklahoma, they successfully petitioned the state to allow them to erect a goat-headed Baphomet statue adjacent to a display of the Ten Commandments.
You're right.
And Lucian Greaves says that in both cases, the organization is only responding to provocations by the Christian community. Even as we prefer public policies respecting secularism, we feel that opportunities such as this to establish an equal voice for contrasting religious opinions in the public square tend to favor marginalized, lesser-known, and alternative religions, he said. I'm quite certain that all of the children in these Florida schools are already aware of the Christian religion and its Bible, and this might be the first exposure these children have to the actual practice of Satanism. We think many students will be very curious to see what we offer, and by God will they ever. So I love this story.
One law. Do what thou willst.
Do what thou wilt is the whole of the law. Love under
Oh,
law.
that's how it goes? Okay.
Isn't that Wiccanism?
Why not? Satanist.
And harm ye none, do as you will. Yeah. But what I love especially about this story is these guys are just fantastic trolls. They really, really are. Because they see this opportunity here where they said, okay, you're going to allow this to happen? Sure, we'll take advantage of it too. And prove the point. Why there needs to be a separation of church and state. And the greatest part of this whole thing was I saw like headline news on their Facebook page asked people what they thought about this, and there were all sorts of butthurt Christians talking about how they won't let us put the Bible in schools, but they'll let the Satanists put their shit in schools. I was like, no, fuck you. This is a response to people putting the Bible in schools. This is what you get when you don't separate the two.
Well, it seems to be a pretty common tactic with Christian churches and activism groups to pretend that they're so persecuted in this country.
Right.
Yeah, because America is so hostile to Christianity.
Yeah, it's definitely not 85% Christian.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have the martyrdom complex going.
Oh yeah, I remember years and years ago when I would actually attend Christian churches that I every week there was somewhere interjected somewhere in either the sermon or your Sunday school lesson or something talking about how persecuted we all were for being Christians, how hard it was in the world to be a Christian. So hard to be a Christian. Yeah.
Where is this happening?
Yeah, it's
Not
so
in
fucking
America.
tough. And I was in Oklahoma City. Yeah, it's hard to be a Christian in Oklahoma City of all fucking places.
Fuck. God's not dead anymore.
Yeah. It only makes it easier for you to network with people, get a job, sing Kumbaya.
Yeah, there was some list somebody published a few years ago. It's like a checklist of religious privilege, and it's see if you are a part of a privileged religious group by seeing how many of these things you can fulfill. It's like find an automatic community to support you in times of need based on your faith. Be able to practice your religion freely without fear of reprisal and that sort of thing. And it's like, oh, all these things these people can do and don't even think about it, and they think they're so persecuted.
Persecution complex. No.
So I say to Mr. Lucian Greaves and the Satanic Temple, I say keep up the good work. You know, I'm with you. I prefer that this stuff is not anywhere. It's not in the schools. It's not being merged with our government. But if they're gonna do it, shit, man, taking advantage of it.
Yeah, especially since they are willing to spend the money. That's what matters, because they have a kind of a Fox religion, and they're willing to spend money on making people know that they're going to do this shit if they are allowed. If anyone is allowed, they're gonna do it.
what I think is another thing that was really great about this is all these people who are getting upset about, oh my God, they're teaching kids to be satanic and evil and demonic. And no, if you look at the little activity book, it's actually a lot of pretty positive stuff. It's about freedom and inclusion and tolerance and pluralism, and it's really not at all this evil, dark, demonic thing that the false impression of what Satanism is. So our next what? From Al Arabiya News, this is way back in the 20th of September. Grand Theft Auto ISIS. It's a militant group is revealing a video game. Gameplay footage recently emerged from an Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, also known as ISIS, themed video game, tasking the player with shooting police and blowing up military convoys.
Whoa! I want this game now.
A video show.
Yeah. I hope the first quest is beheading a journalist, and the second one is getting you an underage teen for a pride.
Yeah. So it appears to be a modified version
I said
of the
sex slave, right?
Yes. So it looks like the game is actually a modified version of Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, which came out a decade ago. And the video showing the game came out on YouTube earlier in the week of this story. And it was, I guess they called it Grand Theft Auto Salil al-Sawarim, which roughly translates as the sound of swords coming together. It showed the playable
first name ever.
Grand Theft Auto, the sound of swords coming together.
Hello, swordplay, my old friend.
So it showed the playable character dressed as a rebel fighter clad in a black bandana, because that's what you do when you're a proud and strong warrior, is hide your fucking face, you fucking cowards. A loose black shirt and camouflage trousers while toting an assault rifle. He can be seen driving a car across an arid, rocky landscape, shooting a policeman, and attacking a convoy of army trucks and then jeeps. And the logo of ISIS is displayed prominently throughout the footage. So they want to the ISIS's media wing. Yes, this terrorist group has a media wing. Was reportedly cited by Arabic media as saying that the game aims to raise the morale of the Mujahideen and to train children and youth how to battle the West and to strike terror into the hearts of those who oppose the Islamic State.
I kind of hope they're going to use this as a training simulator for the future terrorists, because Grand Theft Auto, not the most realistic game.
I love that they're using an American game to do this.
Yeah.
Oh, the irony.
Oh no, a game where you shoot the police and the army. That's definitely not what Grand Theft Auto has always fucking been. You're so original. Good job, ISIS. Great work. You're very good at this whole modification thing. You're almost as good as a 15-year-old.
Huh. I've
Sounds
actually
like
heard that the ISIS has actually a really good media wing, that it actually makes some waves in social media and such,
Yeah.
like recruitment-wise.
Your mom is such an infidel.
What?
Your mom is such an infidel.
I don't understand humor. Are you being a YouTube troll for ISIS now?
No, that was just like 15-year-old gamers. Like, your mom is such an infidel.
Blasphemy.
I'm gonna marry your sister.
Totally fine, dude. Don't care, whatever.
So from Right Wing Watch, Skeletor is back in the news again.
Skeletor!
Pat Robertson says violence in the Bible is different from the Quran because God commanded it in the Bible. On
like
September
the
22nd,
argument
700 Club, Pat Robertson he attempted to explain the difference between passages on war and killing in the Bible and in the Quran. Apparently, he regularly cites Quranic verses as proof that Islam is an inherently violent and genocidal religion. I guess he hasn't actually read the Bible. He said.
Oh, no, he has. He just thinks that it's okay because God said so.
Well, it's still genocide and murder, even if God commanded it. Right. And here's a quote from him. Quote, "How can you say it's not like the other? The other is in the name of Allah."
Which translates to God.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like saying it's in the nombre de Dios. Yeah, that means name of God in English. Thank you.
I don't know. I hate Pat Robertson so much, but he's kind of funny. He's one of those guys that I hear things he says. I'll watch a clip of him talking and think, people actually listen to this shit.
Excuse me, Jonathan. I'm not a particularly bright man.
I've been wearing the same tie since 1973.
Would you like to buy some of my nutritional supplements? Or maybe some blood diamonds from the prison-like mine that I opened up in Africa?
It's okay. God commanded it.
I'm a terrible fucking person.
Yeah, well, heathens. Put heathens to work in your mind. Why not, huh?
That's only fair.
It's, Pat Robertson actually now makes sense to me. He's actually so evil that he's actually so evil that lying is the best thing he can do for people.
Yeah, this is the least worst thing he's done in a while, actually.
That's a good point.
Did you know that
a good point.
he had an earthquake because of a fucking pact with the devil?
Huh.
Oh,
So there's
yeah,
that.
the Haitian thing.
True story.
True story. All right, Mike Bowler, you're up.
Yeah. Oh, wonderful. This is a wonderful story from Infowars.com, the pinnacle of wonderful, factual,
100% reliability.
such reliable. Yeah.
When I think media integrity, I think Infowars.
Such
Yes.
reliable, very trust. Wow.
Yes. Yes. Zombie apocalypse. Ebola patients reportedly rise from the dead.
Reported by who?
That is coming from another highly reliable source.
Natural news.
I wish.
50% off your natural elderberry and Ebola treatments.
Yes. From the New Dawn, Liberia.
What?
The New Dawn, Liberia. Apparently, it's a news source in there in Liberia.
In the Elder Scrolls games? The new Dawn?
Possibly. Who knows? 2 Ebola patients who died of the virus in separate communities in Nimba County. Hope that's county or country. Have reportedly resurrected in the county. The victims, both females, believed to be in their 60s and 40s respectively, died of the Ebola virus recently in the New Hope Village community and the Catholic community in Ganta Nimba. But to the amazement of residents, but to the amazement of residents and onlookers Monday, the deceased reportedly regained life in total disbelief. The New Dawn Nimba County correspondent said that the late Doris Kai of Hope Village Community and the second victim, only identified as Ma Cabeth, said to be in their late 60s, were about to be taken to bureau when they resurrected. And the report goes on to claim victims' supposed resurrection has reportedly created panic in the residents of Hope Village Community and Ganta at large.
Wow, it's weird that this hasn't been picked up by larger media outlets, isn't it? I mean, if there's so much proof, it's clear that somebody must have diagnosed these women as actually dead and totally not just misdiagnosed.
You would think. I'm surprised, but apparently the dead are rising in Africa. So.
Because
Where's
if somebody just believed this story
AP and
on the internet, they would just be completely fucking stupid, right? I mean, they'd have to have some sort of proof, right? I mean,
you would
come on,
think.
guys.
Well, you would think. But this is a wonderful article. Yeah, apparently. Well, I'm going to say in the article there's a YouTube video about soldiers to train to shoot zombies during Ebola, whatever. I don't know.
Does it have Alex Jones all loud and screaming in it?
Making monkey noises like he usually does.
I just when he gets all worked up like that, one of these days he's going to do that and work himself up into a heart attack.
Fingers crossed.
I for one would be very sad when that day happens.
I would love to see that.
Sad? Are you using the right word there, John? Sad?
Well, sure.
Actually, I would be. I'd be sad because I lose half my material.
Yeah. There you go.
So following with our HIV/AIDS theme, this comes from RadarOnline.com, which talk about the pinnacle of integrity in reporting. They took a story from the National Enquirer. For those of you who are not from the United States, that's basically the United States version of Daily Mail or some other terrible tabloid from another country. O.J. Simpson, who's going to be paroled in a few years, apparently might have contracted AIDS from an HIV-positive transsexual lover in prison. This HIV-positive transsexual, Jasmina Jameson, told Radar that, quote, she was the closest thing to a real woman at the Lovelock Correctional Center, where she began a steamy affair with fellow inmate Simpson in 2013.
You know, to me, this strikes me as a BS story. Because
yeah.
Transgender people would not say they were the closest thing to a real woman. If she's transgender, she'd say she is a woman.
Mm-hmm.
That just seems like something somebody made up. Like a drag queen saying that or something. I don't know.
Well, I mean, yeah, this whole story reeks of bullshit. I want to read it just because, fucking what?
What?
There's some great quotes in this. I don't want to read all of them, but apparently,
Please do. Read some.
All right, so here's one. I went in there and we were just flirting. I'm very flirtatious like that. I ended up teasing him, dancing for him. I walked up on him and said, "You can stop me if you want to." I knew he wasn't going to stop me. Then it was too late.
Dear Penthouse Forum, I never thought something like this would happen to me.
Here you go. According to Dr. Stephen Charlap, who has not treated Simpson, or presumably not even ever spoken to him, he told the Enquirer, quote, OJ has put his life in danger due to serious health consequences of his actions. End quote.
Somebody's writing a book.
Yeah, no shit. All right, McElroy, play us out for our last what here? Or you gonna scrap that one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Well, that's all for our what's. So let's take a moment then to talk about a couple of happy things. First, I will include this in the notes later.
What?
I just remembered that I was going to talk about it.
Now?
Yeah, a couple of happy news. Here's one. Oklahoma beat pretty much the entire South into gay marriage. And that's my home state, and I've said before, it's not all bad. I promise. Oklahoma's not all bad. They have gay marriage before most of the South here in the U.S. have gay marriage. As of October 6th, it's now considered legal, although, of course, I'm sure there's a big hullabaloo and appeals and whatnot. But
they weren't one of the states that was included in the Supreme Court's decision not to listen, were they?
I believe so, yes.
Okay,
so
cool.
As of October 6th, in Tulsa, there's a story in Tulsa about gay couples being married, and I was very happy to read that.
Nice.
Yes.
Common sense is starting to prevail.
And here's some happy news concerning feedback to the show. First of all, we've got some feedback recently. One of them was about apparently we have audio troubles.
Yeah, we have some problems with people talking at different volume levels all the time. Very difficult to edit. So.
Yeah, we're working on that, by the way. We will see if we can get that figured out. But here's the other happy news. I got an email from a cousin of mine who he works for the FTC, and he said, quote, "Hey, so I'm listening to episode 10. You started by complaining about a homeopathic diabetes cure. I helped sue one of those. Check it out here." And he sent a link to ftc.gov, where the FTC obtained $2.2 million in judgment against a supplement marketer. Let's see the name of the marketer. Wellness Support Network Incorporated. It's a pretty interesting story, so that's fantastic.
Nice.
So,
very nice.
Cool.
It is good to hear news like that. So fuck you for misrepresenting yourself, you sons of bitches.
Was that the episode where we talked about the guy who had digital medicine, digital cures for diabetes and shit like that?
I
Might have been.
So, yeah.
Because that's a thing that can happen, is you can cure things digitally. And you're not a computer.
So here's a couple of things. A couple of the claims made by the marketers that were false or unsupported by scientific evidence. One, Diabetic Pack is an effective treatment for diabetes, is proven as an effective treatment for diabetes, reduces or eliminates the need for insulin and or other diabetic medications, and is proven to cause an average drop in blood glucose
Holy
levels
shit.
of 31.9%. And
Let me guess. None of these came true.
unsupported. Here's the next one.
Proven by
Insulin resistance pack reverses and manages insulin resistance. Is proven to be an effective treatment for insulin resistance, prevents diabetes, and is proven to cause an average drop in blood glucose levels of 31.9%. Also unsupported by scientific evidence.
Holy shit. That's
So,
just evil.
Good on
Yeah.
you, FTC. That's fantastic news. I'm glad to hear that.
If somebody really believed in that stuff, they would probably die.
Which is what we talked about before. Those fucking homeopathic remedies. If you buy into that, this will cure my problems. Yeah, you can fucking die
Yeah,
from that,
that's
and pretty
super
fucking
dangerous.
quickly
Coma,
too. Yeah.
lose, just oh my god.
Yeah, that's not I stopped taking my insulin and 6 months later I realized it was a bad idea. No, you'll know it really fucking quick. Really fucking quick.
Yeah, this isn't like a homeopathic sleep aid or a headache where
Yeah.
it's not going to hurt you if you take it. This is,
Mhm.
wow, that's vital, life-saving medicine that they're giving up.
Hmm.
Yep.
So that's very good news to hear that there's people cracking down on that sort of thing.
And I was gonna say I didn't want to mention my cousin's name. I
Let's
wasn't
give
sure
a
if it's
warm
here, but
hand
since
to
it's
the-
here in the his name's Austin Omby. He's actually listed in the staff contact on that
Good job.
on that website. So yeah, well done, Austin. I'm proud of you, buddy. So that's about it for the show. Why don't you tell us what you got coming up next on the Dumbass Media Network? I love the mustache. Dumbass, by the way, has been wearing a huge porn stash for about half the show.
Is that actually on you, or is that in the... Oh my god, it is. I thought that was
Yeah.
just a...
No, he's wearing that big bastard.
It is.
So, Dumbass, what's coming up next on your
Well,
show?
coming up on the Amateur Skeptics, we've got vagina cookies.
Ooh.
Also, a guy...
Yummy.
Are those protected?
No, they're completely...
Unsafe vagina cookies. All right.
That's right. We got vagina
With the
cookies.
HIV
We've got
sprinkles.
a guy masturbating on a plane and causing it to have to divert, and we've got some getting sued for posing lewdly with a Jesus statue.
I'm catching a theme from all that.
Is it Jesus?
Is it Jesus? No. But you know what they say? The Dumbass Media Network, touching people while they touch themselves.
That is exactly right.
So, Mr. Bowler, what's next on the Skeptic's Guide to Conspiracy?
Okay, because I just finished the HIV denial show. Actually, I get into more into the more of the conspiracy side, the weaponized stuff. I'm actually going to do it as a series of denial on denialism. Next show will be climate change denial,
Oh, really?
and then the following one will be Holocaust denial.
Excellent.
Those are also
Bet you're going to hit a sack of shit with the climate denial thing, because there are a lot of skeptics in the skeptical community who think that it's a hoax, basically.
I hope so.
I know
hope so.
I know a few people who think it's, if at least not a hoax, it's exaggerated. So,
I know one guy in particular who thinks that the climate gate, the whole email leak thing, proves that scientific misbehavior is rife throughout the entire scientific community, and you can't trust anything they say about climate anymore.
right, because one person represents an entire group all the time.
Definitely not a hasty generalization fallacy going on there.
Right.
Come on.
All right, well, that's going to do it for this episode of Irreverent Skeptics.
And remember, of this podcast, I'm the best person to have sex with, because in Finland, the rate of AIDS is 0.1%, and in the US and in Canada, it's over 4.
Ladies.
Hey, what are you doing? What are you doing this evening, Erno?
Hey there, big boy.